What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Tuman Show. If you rewind way back to the second episode, maybe the third episode, I took you through the backdating on the front. And really, it was mostly done, but I finished it off, right? So the front backdated, looks like a 1300 Ti from the 60s. Perfect. Awesome. I love it. Cool. One thing that always been bugging me though is the trunk. The trunk was the last piece in the mix that had not been backdated. You know anything about the original Giulia Supers and Giulia TIs from their 60s original design? The whole car was covered in all these lovely little touches. Okay, right here, right here, right here, stuff in the front, but also most importantly in the trunk. Why did they do this? I don't know. So this episode, I'm going to take you through all the things that I've done to prepare to finish the full backdating of this car. I had purchased a while ago a used trunk lid, but it needed some work. There was two main problems. Number one, the holes for the emblems on the back did not match. Mine had a capital to start the Alpha and the Romeo and the Giulia and the Super. The originals were all lowercase, so that was one thing. Also, the placement of them was also different. So let me bring in some pictures now to show you kind of the difference, if I haven't already done it at this point. So as you can see, there is a big difference. So that was problem number one, is the holes that were pre-drilled into this trunk lid did not match the holes that I wanted to put on. That second picture that you saw is actually the look that I've been going for. I already had most of the script the way that I wanted it. The only thing that was really changing was going from Nuova Super to Giulia Super. I purchased the badge, I just needed to drill the holes in. This was easier said than done. On the left side, there was nothing, so that was easy. I took a template off of my trunk lid. I pulled the badges out. I had the lining for the holes. Moved those over to the new trunk lid and drilled away. That side was perfectly fine, but the right side, our passenger side, was going to be a totally different story, and that required a lot of work. So I was able to get it started fairly easy. Then what happened is a few things. Number one, I was going to have extra holes, not only in the center of the trunk lid itself, but then the extra ones that didn't line up for what I was doing. So that was problem number one on that right side. But also, being that this trunk lid has Nuova on it, and I was replacing that with Giulia, the pin alignment was not the same, so I couldn't use the Nuova as a template for the Giulia. So I made a template, I drilled those holes, and when I lined up the Giulia emblem and put it in, I noticed that was just off. Now, normally, good enough is good enough, but this was going to drive me crazy, and I knew I needed to do it. So ended up drilling more holes, having more holes to weld up, but as you can see now, it looks great. The goal was accomplished. So that was the one problem. Problem solved. Second problem was the simple fact that it's an old trunk lid. The reason why I got it for a good price is it had some rust. The rust was in this top corner right here, and it rotted from the inside out on this corner. So I prepped it, I cut the hole out, and now I needed to weld that hole up, which was kind of L-shaped. Using the piece I cut out as a template didn't work. I ended up with a piece that was too small with too many gaps. I knew that if I was going to weld this thing in, I needed it to be as tight as possible. So, busted out the CAD. Not really cardboard, but some kind of poster board, some thicker paper. And that fit pretty good. I trimmed it to fit, It was a nice tight fit, as you can see, and then it came time to weld. The welding went so-so. Some spots it took and it welded quite nicely, but unfortunately, just because I cut out the rusted metal didn't mean that there wasn't metal that was on its way to disintegrating. So as I started to weld into the really thin spots, it was burning right through. So it started this process of building up the weld to try and have a smooth surface, grinding it down, having a gap, welding it up, until ultimately we're gonna call this one good enough. There's still a little tiny hole that is gonna drive me crazy, but also I know that the minute I put some heat to it and try to weld it, it's going to just create a bigger hole, and it's going to be this never-ending cycle of adding, grinding, filling a hole, adding, grinding, filling a hole. So I'm going to call that hole good enough. So the last piece to this process is actually paint. Paint's not going to happen in this episode. I've just had a lot of stuff I've been collecting, trying to get this piece done and ready for paint, because why paint that when there's still some more paint work to be done? So the plan is I'm going to send that one off to get painted, and when it gets painted, they'll be able to match this paint to the best of their ability. We're going for good enough on the overall paint scheme of the car. But what it's also going to allow me to do is they will then have extra paint left over that I can take care of this part. And, you know, if it looks good enough, it'll look good enough. The goal is to keep this thing on the road, keep it moving, keep it driving. So 2023, that's the goal. Finishing off the Backdate, we're going to get some more paint on this thing done. Quick work, because what I really want to do this year, I want to get that 2-liter in. Part of me is kind of regretting it because the car's running so good, but on the other end of it is that I'm really tired of this 2-digit horsepower. I'm itching to go to the track. People are telling me to take the Alpha to the track. Let me know what you guys think. Should I take this thing to Willow Springs? Probably do a Streets of Willow course if I did it versus Big Willow. Definitely would need the 2-liter to do that for both of them. As it is, I would not put this old, tired motor through the paces at the racetrack because, yeah, I might need AAA to get me home that day. That's all really this one is. It was a quick, short one. Just wanted to show you that I reached a point to complete that Backdate. That last little phase is just going to be a simple trunk swap and trunk lock swap, and that should be it. Then I should be fully done. I'm going to be very excited when that happens, and I'll probably wait to feature it with the trunk lid and the paint being done at least on this side.